just to go into the Word of God this morning as I welcome you for service. The high schoolers, you can go to your class kindly. Go upstairs for your class. Our young men are back home. Hallelujah. But before I do that, I just want to make, I'm told the announcements are not many, but prayer and fasting continues. Kindly remember that, particularly in this season. For this is our nation, and we need to ensure that we love this country enough to invest our sacrifices into it. That includes fasting. Pastor Paul announces that tomorrow morning there will be no morning glory, but we want to have some time to pray from 9:30 in the morning up to midday. Those of you who are able, if your schedule allows you, based on what you do, 9:30 in the morning to midday, we want to gather here to bring our nation to God. Hallelujah. I was chatting with Steve. Can you turn this phone? I was chatting with Steve. I don't know if he's in the service. Steve used to play keyboard. He lives in America now. So he came to vote. He came to vote from the US. He said, I'm going to physically vote. And you know, he told me something. He said, I'm glad you people never gave up on prayer for the nation. And I think it's good not to give up. Isn't it? So tomorrow 9:30 in the morning, let's gather here and pray. We shall resume our prayer meetings on Wednesday. So tomorrow, let's come to pray, and then Wednesday we resume our programs in Morning Glory and the rest of the program. I want to go to the Word of God this morning. You know, in a moment like this, you begin to reflect on what do you want to tell the church. Because everything needs to be relevant. Because we need an answer to questions of the moment. And this morning I want to talk to you briefly about understanding patriotism. Understanding patriotism. And I really need your attention this morning because I believe with all my heart patriotism is one of the critical aspects of our lives that we need to look into today. In the book of Numbers, chapter 25, verse 6 to verse 13, we meet a story. It's a long story, the whole chapter. The nation of Israel found itself in idolatry. They began to have sexual affairs with the Moabites. God was not happy about it. So many people died because of that. While people are still dying and people are mourning, a Jewish man, a Hebrew man walked into the camp with a Moabite woman, and they went into their tent. Moses was present. Aaron was present. They did nothing. But one man by the name of who? Phinehas looked at his nation and said, I'm going to do something. That is the story. So can you give it to us, please? And indeed one of the children of Israel came and presented to his brethren a Midianite woman in the sight of Moses, in the sight of all the congregation of the children of Israel who were weeping at the door of the tabernacle of meeting. Now when Phinehas, the son of Eleazar, the son of Aaron the priest, saw it, he rose from among the congregation and took a javelin in his hand and went after the man of Israel into the tent and thrust both of them through, the man of Israel and the woman through her body, So the plague was stopped among the children of Israel. The action of one citizen stopped a national plague. How many citizens? Talk to me, church. How many citizens? The action of one citizen stopped a national plague. One person impressed heaven. And this person was not even the leader of the whole nation. Moses was leading about 2 million people. Aaron was the priest. But this one man took action, and that action attracted heaven, and a whole nation benefited. And those who died in the plague were 24,000. Then the Lord spoke to Moses, saying, Phinehas, the son of Eleazar, the son of Aaron the priest, has turned back my wrath from the children of Israel. Now, who turned back the wrath of God? Was it a committee? A man. A person. Because he was zealous with my zeal among them, so that I did not consume the children of Israel in my zeal. Therefore say, behold, I give to him my covenant of peace, and it shall be to him and his descendants after him a covenant of an everlasting priesthood, because he was zealous for his God and made atonement for the children of Israel. Now listen, friends, ladies and gentlemen, this man made atonement for a nation. He was never invited. Was he invited? Nobody invited him. Nobody told him the nation needs help. It's your time to act. He took responsibility as a person. And his action, the action of one man, saved a nation. And after saving a nation, God said he will not forget about him. And God made a promise that his offspring will be a priesthood offspring. People like Ezra came out of him. People who made a difference in nations. The challenge you and me face is our own challenge. We look at ourselves as grasshoppers who can do nothing. You can make a difference. Hallelujah. You can make a difference. One man made a national difference. Ladies and gentlemen, this morning is a very interesting morning to be able to address the issues where we are. Today, we are in an Unga revolution. Do you understand the Unga thing? You know, was it Friday, Dan, when we went to the supermarket? I was with Dan on Friday and I wanted to get something, so I remained in the car and he ran into the supermarket. And he came and said, you know, they bring unga from the store to the shelves and it goes immediately. Unga. Not wheat flour, unga ya ugali. You know, I used to think ugali was for some people. I'm coming to discover this thing is affecting everybody. Isn't it? I mean, it's amazing. And I think you said that the lines were crazy. Kenyans were shopping. I mean, we are faced with a serious economic challenge today. The cost of fuel, I don't know. Those of you who drive cars, you know what I'm talking about. There's never been this way before. Our society seems to be collapsing in terms of the fabric that held us together and made us a people who loved and honored each other. Those threads that knit us together seem to be being cut by some forces. which we cannot understand. I was watching news last night and I realized Kikwete is here, and he was here in 2008. What was he doing here? Representing East African community. I was listening to Algog. Is it Algog? Algog. I was listening to them and they were explaining how many people have come to Kenya from all over the world to come and see how Likavo is going to vote. Hey, let me tell you something. This globalization thing is hitting me in my house. Some people have come in now. I guess, I don't know how many of you work in hotels in town, but I want to guess that our hotels have got strangers. Who have come to make sure that Tuesday we are safe. And these are issues we are facing today. We are faced with the ugly head of negative ethnicity that shows up every time we come together into elections. That is the time we remember, oh, I am this tribe. The rest of the year, we are good citizens, working together, living together, doing business together. Until a time like this, when this ugly head rises up. This is our challenge. And I'm concerned about politics and religion. Very, very much concerned about them. I think I've said before. Let me say it again. Most of the problems the world faces are caused by two people, two groups. Politics and religion. Now when you bring these two together and try to make them play a game, you're in trouble. You'll understand this later. You know, I was watching news sometime, and there are these guys in Okambani who wanted to dress Raila with the gown of a bishop. I don't know how many of you saw it. And they wanted to make him an apostle. And now listen, they wanted to make Raila an apostle. They mentioned it on TV. I have clips on my phone. Men of God praying and saying, the Lord has told us, you are our next president. Speaking about the deputy president. It's on clips. People respect and honor. So here is a group dressing Raila as an apostle. Here is a group telling the deputy president, God has spoken to us. Politics and religion are dangerous. I thank God I'm not a religious man. I belong to Christ. These are issues we are contending with today, even as we wait day after tomorrow to go into the place to vote. When you look at all these problems, look at the cost of fuel. Look at the instability. Look at the Unga revolution. Look at the cries of parents because of fees. You know, I asked myself last night, why would anyone want to win an election now? I'm suspicious. With all these problems, why would anybody want to win this election? I am suspicious. And don't worry about my suspicion. What do we mean by patriotic? Who is a patriot? A patriot is a person who vigorously supports his or her country and is prepared to defend it against enemies or detractors. I want you to mark those words. This is an individual, this is a person who vigorously supports his or her country and is prepared to defend it against enemies or detractors. Is a patriot. This person loves his nation so much is prepared to defend it, is prepared to fight for it from detractors and from all other people who do certain things which cannot work. I mean the person. This is a serious issue. A person who vigorously supports his or her country. This person is prepared to defend his nation against enemies. Ladies and gentlemen, over the last, I think I would call it maybe from 2005, some of us got engaged in this country. We got involved. We were not invited. The Katiba 2005, I drove my car from here to Nairobi looking for a team that was meeting, a professionals team from the church. I met them and said, what is going on? And they said, this is what we are prepared. I came back. I mobilized North Rift, Western, and Nyanza. Spent a lot of money taking a team from Nairobi, meeting pastors and leaders, explaining what was in that draft constitution because of the love we have for this country. 2010, we did the same. You ask Janet, I used to leave the house every Monday at 3 in the morning to be in a meeting in Nairobi at 7. After that, we could meet from the evangelicals. After that, we managed to get NCCK and we began to have another meeting at Ufungamano. It grew into a national summit. The summit consisted of the leading bishops in this country. You're talking about the Anglican Archbishop, the Presbyterian, the Methodist, whatever. And I found myself sitting on that council for their meetings. We fought some bills the enemy wanted to bring in this country. The reproductive health bill and other bills. There is a love for a nation that is beyond being a citizen. A patriot is a person who loves and supports his or her country, according to Webster. Loves and supports. Does not just love, but supports. Ladies and gentlemen, John F. Kennedy said, ask not what your country can do for you. Ask what you can do for your country. Don't ask, what can Kenya do for me? Ask yourself, what can I do for Kenya? Ruben Kagame, not Ruben Kagame, Paul, there is Ruben Kagame, Paul Kagame said this, Africa's story has been written by others. We need to own our problems and solutions and write our story. We need to own these things as patriots. For this is our land. This is our nation. Having explained who a patriot is, where do we go to for an answer in a moment like this? We need two things which I want you to think about. Number one, we need a citizenry that is patriotic. People who are patriotic. Young men, young women in schools and colleges and universities who are patriotic. Men and women in the marketplace who are patriotic. We need businessmen and businesswomen who love this country. Who don't ask you, do you want an ETR receipt? You know that question, don't you? I don't think many people know that. A person who, when you park in your car and the Kanjo people come and say you have not paid, you celebrate and say, thank God this thing is working for us. You don't come with the pliers to cut it off. You missed that. Are you with me? At least something is working. We need citizens who do the right thing. Patriotic citizens. They do what is right. You people in business, you know the battles you are fighting because of corruption. Corruption is so high. People are working in offices, they are on salary, and they want you to give them money to serve you. I have a problem with that. I have a problem with that. Sorry. I have a problem with that. To get anything, I used to be a civil servant. If I went to inspect a project, I look at the project, I inspect it, I sign my recommendations, and I leave. I don't sit there looking at the contractor. I'm leaving. Just leave. Just go. Just go. We need some citizens who are patriotic. And we need a breed of them. We must find two. Even if it is 1 out of 1,000, it will be like yeast. It will begin to spread. Do you know you can be so stubborn, they will serve you. They will be like what Jesus said. I don't honor people and whatever, but because of this guy is wearing me out. Sign it for them. We need a breed of people like that. We are tired of people who say, now what can you do? This is normal. New normal. I give you money to serve. No. Mm-mm. We need some patriotic. This country needs some patriotic people. People who love Kenya as Kenya and do that which is right. Number 2, we need a patriotic leadership. I want you to think about this because not everybody who comes calling himself a leader is a leader. We need patriotic leaders. Have you discovered in moments like this, everybody's looking for a leader to take them to a place which they don't know? Let me say that again. Right now, do you have your ID? Yes or no? Are you going to vote? Yes, please vote. Vote. If you don't vote, you don't love this country. Vote. If I knew you are not voting and I know your house, I will come for you. I will literally come for you. So please let me know. If you don't want to vote, please talk to me before you leave. And give me a map to your house. Because in moments like this, usually humanity looks to somebody who can take them to this better place. Can they describe it? Yes, when Unga is back to 80 bob. That is the place I want to be. Unga at 80 bob or 100 flat. Fuel comes back. There is a place where we want to be, and somebody must take us there. This is the person we are looking for. You see, the children of Israel needed a Moses. Remember? The guy didn't have much. This guy had only one thing. You know what it is? What was it? A rod. You pick a guy who has nothing but a rod. The leadership we need right now in this country, let me tell you something. The leadership we need, none of the politicians can give it to us. I promise you, Wajakoya cannot give it to us. I promise you. Maura, my friend, by the way, Maura is a very close friend of mine. We hosted Maura in our house. He slept in our house once. We know each other very well because of the things we did for the nation from 05. He was on the team of lawyers we worked with to deal with the Katiba issues. He's my friend, but I'm not sure that he has the answers. Our deputy president has given the promises, but I'm not sure if he has the answers. Raila Odinga has told us everything, but I'm not sure that he has the answers. The leadership we need now must have the capacity to tap into a wisdom away from this world. A wisdom away from councils and kitchen cabinets. A wisdom that comes from out of this world. A wisdom that comes from God. That's the kind of leadership I'm talking about. And this is why this week is critical. You tell me now, what do we do next? We'll do something about it. And please, there's some things I don't want to go into here. But you know, the quality of life in a nation does not just depend on the leaders. It depends on their philosophy. You know, somebody may say, I just want so and so as a leader. The quality of the lives of citizens in a nation does not just depend on who is in power. It depends on the philosophy of those in power. Hitler had a philosophy. Idi Amin had a philosophy. Paul Kagame had a philosophy. Moi had a philosophy. Love, peace, and you forgot. Love, peace, and Moi had a philosophy. It's not just about my man being voted in. I want to know the philosophy behind this man in terms of nationhood. Now please, I'm not talking about nationhood. I'm talking about patriotism, because nationhood is different from patriotism. I'm trusting God that we'll make good choices on Tuesday, from MCA to the presidency. Hallelujah. The late Mwai Kibaki, former president of this country, said this: leadership is a privilege to better the lives of others. It is not an opportunity to satisfy personal greed. I got that statement from Kibaki. It's not an opportunity to become richer, wealthier. Anybody who has that kind of philosophy is dangerous to lead a nation. Oh. Some of you are looking at me funny. Welcome to church. Kibaki said, it is a privilege. It is what? A privilege to better the lives of people, of others. It is not an opportunity to satisfy personal greed. I think we are intelligent enough to ask God to give us wisdom on Tuesday. I only have one vote. We need an external help, and that is from God. We need external help that is from God. All right? Listen to what Tomboya said. We will never sell our freedom for capital or technical aid. We stand for freedom at any cost. That is your fellow Kenyan. And I think Tomboya was a patriot. If you read about him and his commitments to this country, the flights, the people he sent to America when we were getting independence. One of them was my village mate, a guy who was in my village called Japheth El-Jodi. We went in that team to the US. Came back, worked with the Minister of Agriculture. He became a member of parliament. Obama's father was part of that team. Tomboya worked hard to make that happen. And the man says that freedom is not on the market. Let me tell you something. The liberty, the beauty of our nation is not on the market. If it is on the market, we are winning it to the side of the church. Hallelujah. So I've said the solution is we need citizenry that is patriotic, and we need a patriotic leadership. Now, let me take a few minutes to talk about the practice of patriotism. Because we need to practice this patriotism. We are patriots. We need to practice it in this country. We have been given promises by politicians, promises that I listened to them. You know, I was looking for any of them who would cast a vision for Kenya. None. All of them have got promises. We will fight corruption. And you know, Mother doesn't smile about that. You know how serious Mother Karua is? She's not smiling. She said, we're coming for you. We are coming for you. And she looks around. Coming for you. We got promises from Wajakoya. Tingiza mti. Hey. And have you discovered he's also winning some people? He has an aspirant in Parklands. Tingiza mti. Kenya is in a very interesting time. You know, it is so scary that I'm glad I'm born again. I'm glad I'm a Christian. We need to practice patriotism. It needs to be practiced. How do we do this? I want to share one point, and under that one point I have 3 sub-points. I have like 12 points to share, but I think I want to deal with one in this service. Number 1, recognition and appreciation of the whole. Recognition and appreciation of the whole. Now that sounds like a funny combination of words, but I want you to think along with me. It simply talks about recognizing and appreciating this reality. There is a bigger picture than you. We are part of the whole. Something bigger. Patriotism begins there. It begins in the place where I recognize, I appreciate that I'm not just a single thing like an amoeba. I'm trying to remember some of the things I did in school. I'm not just existing by myself. I'm part of something bigger than myself. That is the recognition I'm talking about. That is where patriotism begins. I don't just exist. I am part of the whole. There's something bigger than me. I need to recognize it. I need to appreciate it, and I need to give it the respect it deserves. The first thing I want to talk about this recognition is this: God determined where we would belong as individuals. It is God who determined where we would be born, where we would belong. It is God who determined. My Lord, you and me never decided to be born African. Some Africans made us, we were just born African. You never chose. You never chose which tribe to be born in. You never even chose your family. You never did. Acts chapter 17 verse 26. And he has made from one blood every nation of men to dwell on all the face of the earth. And has done what? Come on, what has he done? Determined their pre-appointed times and boundaries of their. Who did that? He determined the time. He determined the boundaries. So that they should seek the Lord in the hope that they might grope for him and find him, though he is not far from each one of us. God determined the boundaries of nations. He may have used colonialists. The word nation is not really country. It is ethnos, a group of people with a language. I was born a Luya, so Luya nation. We have a language called the Luya language. We speak Luya. And I speak it without apology. I hope you understand that, dog. There are some people. By the way, there are these very strange people. You speak the same mother tongue and they answer you in Kiswahili. You I don't know if you understand. This guy, you know each other, you grew up together. Now you are in town, you say, Yaniko Salama. What's wrong with them? God determined the boundaries. He did not only determine boundaries, he also determined the time. I'll be a Kenyan at this time. When we have a very competitive election, I will be a Kenyan and have a role to play within that system. It's God who does it. So you did not choose to be born where you were born. Be happy. When you find somebody who talks your mother tongue, talk it out. Me, I can preach in Kiluya and nikiwa nyumbani. I do. And there are some of you who cannot preach in your mother tongue. You are in the village and you're preaching Kiswahili in the village. And these are your grandmothers. Ati mtanielewa tu mimi ni mtu wa tao. No. God chose you be born at Turkana, a Pokot, a Luya, Kikuyu, Masai, Kalenjin, Luo, Kisii, Mkamba, Mgiriama, Mtaita, Mtaveta, Msomali, Muhindi, Mkenya Muhindi, Mkenya Mwarabu. God determined you be born there. Please accept it. Accept it. Don't pretend to be something else. You know, I remember the year 2005, I was in the Bahamas for the first time. First time I went out of this country. And I was in a meeting and I was invited in the night. Wednesday night, Dr. Miles Monroe said, "Oh, we have a brother from Kenya. Can you come and tell us about Kenya?" So I came forward and he gave me a microphone. We were people from about 40 nations. And there was another guy from one of the African countries who had been invited to say something about his country. And he had talked about how it is tough to live there. How his country is so poor that he took 2 years to save his air ticket. I remember Mike Murdoch just called him after he gave his testimony and wrote him a check to recover his ticket. So I said, they said, "So you can get a check?" So when I was called the following night, something in me said, "Remember last night?" That guy complained until he got a check, remember? And he didn't even just get the check for the ticket, it was more. So I took the microphone and I talked about Kenya. I talked so well. I said, "Do you want to see lions, real lions? Come to Kenya. Do you want to see athletes, people who run? In fact, I live in their town." I told them, "I live where the athletes come from. Give me a visit, you'll see them." I mean, everybody began to look at me. And when I went to sit down, Miles said, I'm so glad, my brother, you've spoken good of your own nation. On Friday night, he called me to help serve the Holy Communion. I never got a check. But I kept the dignity of my country. The dignity of my nation. And I remember 2003, after election 2002, and Kibaki had come to power, and I went to the US, went to the Bahamas. I flew from the Bahamas coming back to Miami in Florida. The plane that brought me from Nassau, Bahamas, was going back, and I found there in the waiting area Dr. Miles and his wife Ruth. And when he saw me, he said, come, let's have a cup of coffee. Kenya has done us proud. Kenya has had an election without fighting, and a new president is in the office. And he asked me to go and prepare a report for Third World Leaders Association on how proud Kenya has made the third world. He could not do that if I cried about how poor it is. Let me tell you something. This is our nation. We love this country. You can watch things happen if you choose to. You can ask what happened after 9th, or you can make things happen. Which one do you want to choose this morning? Watch them happening, ask what happened, or cause things to happen? I'm determined to cause things to happen for this country. Hallelujah. Hallelujah. I like what John F. Kennedy said. This statement, I think, is relevant. He said, let us not seek to fix the blame for the past. No. I think it doesn't begin like that. Let us not seek the Republican answer or the Democratic answer, but the right answer. Let us not seek the Republican answer or the Democratic answer, but the right answer. Because those are the two major parties in America. Let us not seek to fix the blame of the past. Let us accept our own responsibility for the future. Forget about the past. We have gone through a mess in this country. We have been ripped. This country has been, Kenya is good. Zimeibwa lakini tuna survive. The president said, how much do they steal every day? 2 billion. 2 billion. What? Do you know what a billion is? Yeah? I think my chairman, Okinde, did some analysis. I think he was in a church somewhere. And I watched the clip. And I said, wow. He said what 1 billion can do for you. If you eat 100,000 per day. You understand? Eat. No, let me put it this way. If you spend 100,000 per day from 1 billion, you have not invested it in fixed interest. No, it's just lying there. It's your 1 billion lying there. You tell the bank, don't even put interest, but I'll come for 100,000 every day. You will need over 27 years to finish 1 billion. If you're spending 100,000 a day, what will you be doing with 100,000? What kind of food are you eating? What kind of car are you driving? Pastor Bonnie, if I take 1 billion and I put on fixed interest right now, billion on fixed interest in a year, how much will I make? Bankers here, can you think with me? If you put a billion on fixed interest, what is the interest rate now? Around 7. So 7% of 1 billion. What I will get at the end of the year? 7 over 100 times 1 and 9 zeros. What does that give you? 70 million profit. Interest. 700 million. Apana, you're too much. 70. Now, if you put in fixed deposit, you're making 70 million a year. How much a month? Divide by 12. Come on. You people, you're embarrassed. How much per month? 5-point-something million a month. What will you do with a million, 5 million a month? Even if you want to fly to Europe, next month you're in Australia, next month you're in Oceania, I mean, the money will still be looking at you. And there are people who are stealing 5 billion. God put us in this country. This is our nation. Hallelujah. Now, but the second point I want to put on that, by the way, before I leave this point, God did not just make you a Kenyan for the sake of it. There is a responsibility attached. Play that responsibility. On Tuesday, go out and vote. Go out and do what? That's your responsibility. That's why I like Steve. The guy flew from US to come and vote and go back. My friend, somebody had a ticket yenyewe. The second point I want to put on that, on this particular recognition and appreciation of the whole is this: we have been trained consciously or unconsciously to believe in me or us more than the whole. I think I wrote there what 1 billion can do. I've already dealt with that. You and me have grown up with a mindset: we versus them. Us versus them. My group versus them. My God, that attitude is so deep that it affects cross-cultural marriages. It affected us in 2008, you remember? It was us versus them. 08. The problems in South Sudan, it is because of us versus them. What happened in Rwanda in 1994? Was it 94? It is us versus, and I looked at one of the things Kagame said, talked about being a leader, and he said about the danger of staying in too long as a leader. The guy is there almost 30 years. I like what Museveni said. You remember what Museveni said? Museveni said something about African leaders. That was in 1986, after he came to power. He said these African leaders love staying in power for too long. Well, the guy is still there today. Welcome to Africa, ladies and gentlemen. The challenges in Rwanda, the challenges of South Sudan. Do you remember the George Floyd problem in America? It's all about us versus them. There are some communities in this country which cannot intermarry. If an Asian, an Indian gets married to an African, they are disowned. You know that? Young men, if you don't know, try to marry one. Victor, try your luck, brother. you Oh, Jesus. Hey, the issue of I versus them is dangerous. We are part of the whole. I'm part of this country. Yeah? I'm a Kenyan. Your passport does not read your tribe. Does it? Those of you who have passports, does it read your tribe? No, it reads your country, isn't it? A Kenyan passport. Please spare me your ethnic biases. Spare me from them. I love this country. It is tough. By the way, it is tough to lead Kenya now. It's tough. The next president needs a people who look at each other as one people, not as us versus them. It's tough. You may not understand unless you understand governance. It's tough. Our security systems are working so hard now. Our sons and our daughters who are in the security unit, they're working hard to ensure we have a peaceful election. It is tough. Some of them have left their regular stations, spreading all over the country to make sure it is safe. It is tough. Kibaki said, allow me just to call him Kibaki, our former president, let us reject violence and selfishness which could destroy our country's unity. Let's reject them. Let's reject them. Let's reject violence. Let's reject selfishness which could destroy our country's unity. From here, when you see a person of another community, give them a hug. Tell them, I'm glad you're a Kenyan. I'm glad we belong to this country together. I'm glad we are one. Ladies and gentlemen, allow me to close on my Roman 3. The individual is never complete without the whole. The individual is never complete without the whole. How many questions do people ask God? I mean, recorded in the Bible where somebody asked God a question and God did not answer. There are very few incidences where somebody asked God a question verbally and God kept quiet. One of them was the question of Cain. Do you remember what Cain said about Abel? What did he say? Am I my brother's keeper? God never answered that question. It was a stupid question. Am I my brother's keeper? Yes, you are. You are your brother's keeper. 1 Corinthians 12. Let's hurry up, we want to close service. For as the body is one and has many members, but all the members of that one body, being many, are one body, so also is Christ. Members of the body are many, but they form what? One body. For by one Spirit we were all baptized into one body, whether Jews or Greeks, whether slaves or free, and have all been made to drink into one Spirit. For in fact, the body is not one member, but many. Kenya is not one tribe, we are many. Even the Makonde are voting. Do you remember the Makonde? There used to be a saying about the Makonde. Do you remember something about the Makonde? Simon Makonde, from the Makonde people in Kwale. I watched recently, they were talking on TV. One of them said, I was born here. My father was born here. But I used to avoid the police because I had no ID. But now, I'm going to vote. We are many. Please, spare me your bias. Verse 15. If the foot would say, because I'm not a hand, I'm not of the body, Is it therefore not of the body? And if the ear should say, because I'm not an eye, I am not of the body, is it therefore not of the body? If the whole body were an eye, where would be the hearing? If the whole were hearing, where would be the smelling? Have you discovered, by the way, I love this country. This country is so good. Each community is gifted differently. Huh? Each community is gifted differently. And we need each other. That is why, please, listen to me. And those of you who are watching, those of you who are planning to disrupt anybody's life, think again. Think. You need that person to make you think. Yeah? Can you take just a bunch of lawyers, put them together? They just talk about football. Please, who plays soccer in this country? The Luas. Have you ever heard of Kiplagat Nampira? Kiplagat Nampatia Kibiagon? Have you ever heard of that? No, it is Onyango. Onyango gives to Amalo. Amalo gives to Otieno. I mean, these fellows, let Otieno play soccer. Let Imanyara break records. But Imanyara cannot run marathon. Marathon is meant for Kalenjin. Obiri and Ajaribu. By the way, there are some Kikus who have tried to run. Have you watched them? What do you do? Please go on YouTube. All right? And begin to seek Kenyan runners who are not Kalenjin. Particularly marathon. See how they run. They work hard. But let a Kalenjin take the lane. The guy just easy like fish in water. That's who they are. But please don't put a Kalenjin on the soccer team. He will run. They don't understand. We cannot all be runners. Huh? Take 10,000, give to a Kikuyu mama. She will look at it and say, let me go to Kikomba. Let me go to West and get something. I'll wash it, nishone, nipike pasi, nirudishe West. I bought it at 20 bob, I'll sell it at 40. Now there are some other mamas in this country. Give her 10,000 straight to the market. Matumbo. I mean, it's Nyama, Blue Band. Eh? Oh my God. We need those gifts together. We cannot say I am this. We need those gifts together. The hand cannot say I don't need the eye. Yeah? I went to Kambisamaki when I was in A level. We went to do some ecology, something Kambisamaki huko. And I found who was selling fish. There were some Luo mamas said Kambisamaki. You know where it is? Baringo. I went to Atlanta, Georgia. There's somebody selling fish there. A Luo lady. Atlanta, Georgia, America. The fish thing traveled with her. We need each other. The body needs each other. Hallelujah. The individual is never complete without the whole. You are not complete in your group. You need the other group. You need other Kenyans. You need other ethnic groups. We need one another. We are interrelated. Paul Kagame said, please, anything with this. We cannot turn the clock back, nor can we undo harm caused. But we have the power to determine the future and to ensure that what happened never happens again. We have the power to choose that what happened never happens again. I want to vote on Tuesday and just walk around in town, not go and sit in the house like a prisoner. On Wednesday, I want to monitor results on my phone as I do business in town. If you're a businesswoman, just get busy on Wednesday. Don't run. I saw some people increasing their security up here on the buildings. They're putting some things, this, their corral. I said, look at what fear can do. What happened in the past happened in the past. We have the power and the capacity to determine what happens in the future. That is our choice. And I choose to be on the side of those who make a difference. I refuse to be on the side of those who cause trouble. This is our nation. I'm not worried. I'm born again. Let me give you my own quote. I'm calling it the Likavo quote. What is the Likavo quote? Vote peacefully, love graciously, and believe firmly. I wrote that this morning. That one I wrote this morning. Vote peacefully, love graciously, and believe firmly. That word gracious comes from the word grace. This is our nation. Are you blessed this morning? Kenya is a beautiful country. You and me are going to make a difference. If anybody recruits you into a group that wants to cause chaos in this country, tell them wrong address. I'm a patriotic Kenyan. There's a song I want us to do. You're my brother, you're my sister. So take me by the hand. Hallelujah. Jesus. Okay, we will do the chorus. But it says, can you take me to the first stanza, please? Just explain. Sometimes it is hard for me to understand why we pull away from each other so easily. Even though we are walking the same road, the road called Kenya. Yet we build dividing walls between our brothers and ourselves. But I don't care what label you may wear. If you believe in Jesus, you belong with me. The blood we share is all I care to see. And we can change things. We can change this world forever if you will join with me. Now, can you imagine the picture of a cross? Msalaba. You can imagine that? How many beams make the cross? How many beams? 2. Vertical and horizontal. If one of the beams is wrong, it cannot be a cross. The horizontal must remain horizontal. The vertical must remain vertical. The horizontal is our relationship with other human beings. Vertical is our relationship with God the Father. If the horizontal beam is out of shape, the vertical beam has a problem. You cannot say you belong to God when you hate other people. And I'm talking about the hatred. I'm just talking about this community thing we talk about. I hate that community. I hate this one. If the horizontal has a mess, the vertical cannot work. Both of them must be right. Hallelujah. My relationship with other human beings, even if you wrong me, I will not blame your tribe for wronging me. I'll blame you. Could you stand on your feet as we close service? You're my brother, you're my sister, so take me by the hand. Together we will walk till he comes. There's no foe that can defeat us when we're walking side by side. As long as there is love, we will stand. You're my brother, you're my sister, so take me by the hand. Together we will work until he comes. There's no foe that can defeat us when we're walking side by side. As long as there is love, we will stand. One more time. You're my brother, you're my sister, you're my sister. So take me by the hand. Together we will walk until he comes. There's no foe that can defeat us when we're walking side by side. As long as there is love, we will stand. Come on, let's celebrate our unity. Let's celebrate our